Welcome and welcome back. I have still not mentally accepted that this is the week of UC 318, that this is the last dance. Do you have your war merch? It's not too late, okay? It's not too late to get the war merch. It's not too late to get the hot sauce, okay? It's not too late to watch Fightville. And if you're interested, I have two videos about both of those things, Dustin's hot sauce and the movie Fightville, which is like his origin story, basically. There's just so much that has been on my mind with this being the last dance. I can't accept it, and it's very bittersweet because it's hard to think that it's the last time that we're ever gonna see him get in there, the last time we're ever gonna hear people cheer his name in that way, but he has done so much and he's really ending it on his own terms, which I'm sure you have heard him say that before, and it's the truth. But we got to give this card a dynamic breakdown and get to know everybody before we talk about the big main event. I have cried so many times thinking about this just because I'm so moved. Okay, I'm simply so moved by Dustin's journey, his career, the retrospect of it all, and personally how, I came into watching the UFC pretty close to after he had lost to Conor McGregor for the first time, and I got to see just his outstanding character, his response to that adversity, and looking back into everything that he has done. Oh my gosh, okay. But we got a lot of good fights. We got a lot of great fights, a lot of really great people. Let's get to know what they've been up to, of course. We gotta have an agenda. We have to know what's going on, right? We are back in New Orleans, baby, where it all started, where Dustin's journey, that is his homeland. He is an essential pillar of his community. Shout out Lafayette, Louisiana. Shout out Martinsville, okay? And it's a battle for the BMF belt. Do we actually recognize this as legitimate as a community? Let me know what you think, because I don't love it. But you know what? We're here, okay? We're here. And the question is, why this fight? So why are we running it back? Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier for a third time. Okay? Well, there's some story there. And as mentioned, this is the last dance. And while I am really sad, it's 100% time. We're ending on Dustin's terms. And just for a little bit of fun, every Southern Belle on the card gets a little diamond, just because, everyone can shine in the light diamonds that is Dustin Poirier. Everybody gets to be a diamond who is a Southern Belle. I want to ask you this, just right off the get-go, whose side are you on? When these men met for the first time, they were so young. I mean, I think Max was hardly 19. Dustin was 20, 21 years old. They were recently signed to the UFC, both of them, but Dustin a little bit ahead in his journey. And they were the featured prelim on UFC 143. Carlos Condit versus Nick Diaz. Isn't that a classic for another interim belt, interestingly enough? And this fight ended pretty quickly. Before we got to see a lot, Dustin was able to get the submission via armbar over Max in the first round. However, the second time that we got to see these men go head-to-head, fast forward, it's 2019. First time was 2012. Now we're at UFC 236. We're 27 and 30 respectively. These men have, grown into their bodies a little bit, but they've got that fire within them, that youthful energy, and it's a main event. And in that co-main event, as you can see, was Calvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya, which was its own, now Hall of Fame fight. And this fight was worthy of some Hall of Fame as well. This was a main event for the interim lightweight belts. This is actually the first time that these two guys have met with a belt on the line. A little bit different. At this time, Max was on a 13-fight win streak and was currently holding the interim belt champion, okay? And Dustin was a kind of a decent underdog, interestingly. I mean, Max had gained a lot of recognition, a lot of popularity at this time. You can hear the crowd is cheering his name just a little bit louder, and I think that influenced the betting odds for sure. And this fight was a lot different from the first. If you go back and check it out, you really should. I think that it will be a kind of a similar look to what we're going to get this weekend. It was totally blood and war. And Dustin, through these 5 rounds, you made it all the way to the end. Dustin took Max to a place that he really just doesn't go. Even now, still. Then on his 13-fight win streak, and now today. Max is somebody who is pretty notorious for his high output, but he's a very effective counter striker and he avoids a lot of damage. He's not just reckless in there, which is why he's been able to maintain, I feel like, such a long, illustrious career and why he only has one knockout loss. But Dustin was able to, actually hit him and actually stun him, kind of shaking him up a little bit, mixing up his game plan. Really, really fascinating stuff, but it was a very incredible back and forth where I couldn't recommend watching that fight enough. Seriously, it felt like one of the fastest 5-round fights that I had ever seen. It felt like we were watching flyweights with the absolute pace that both men put on. We were almost entirely on the feet, standing and trading, and almost entirely boxing within that. And by the end of it, it was a unanimous decision win for Dustin, 49-46. So both men managed to grab a round, maybe two. It was a pretty competitive fight, but Dustin, you could see there was a huge differential in his power. So that kind of answers the question as far as like, why are we doing this fight again? Because it was a very competitive, very exciting, very all-out war. And Max is definitely somebody who deserves to, I feel like, take the last dance with Dustin, right? So if you didn't know why, that's the reason why. Okay, but we'll get back to it. First, we got to go and cover our early prelims because we're on a pay-per-view. So we got early prelims, we got prelims, and we got a main card. Who's up first? Up first, we have Kari, Judith C. I think it's Judith C. or Judas. Judith C. versus Nicole Kari. This is a women's flyweight. Kari is our first Southern Belle, very appropriately from Lafayette, Louisiana. A great way to open it up, right? With a hometown hero. And crispy Kari is absolutely crispy, okay? She's coming off of her first UFC wins. This is going to be her third appearance, and it was a nasty head kick. And head kicking is kind of her signature, so let's be watching out for that because Kari is just such a rangy, vicious fighter, and I am loving the energy that she brings in there. Every single one of her wins are a knockout in round one, so you can see that she has that Dustin Poirier, that Louisiana Scrapville in her eyes. You can see it. She is a chaser, right? She sees the hurt, she smells the blood, and she goes for it. So the only losses that she has had are split decisions, which is just greater evidence that Kari knows how to take it to war, okay? If you're going to try to get Kari out of there, she's not going to make it easy. That's what we love about her. And something that's fun about what Kari's been up to lately is she's been, expanding her arsenal by training with Rose Namajunas, and we love Rose, okay? Rose is all-time legend, and that is one of the best training partners that you can get to prepare for any fight, right? That is some flyweight legendary, so really getting ready with the right people. She'll be going against Nicole Kari, okay, similar age. She was on a fight promotion called Fight Music Show. That's interesting. That's really fun. She's coming off of a split decision back in January, and she's looking for her first UFC win, so just a little bit behind Kari in terms of her career projection. The records are very similar. She's also a finisher of that knockout type, and she has never won a decision. So those ladies have that in common. Okay, these ladies are finishers, and she has never been knocked out herself. So they have that in common. This is guaranteed to be a firework, banger, barn burner, okay, whatever they say. Also, what is a barn burner? That, I feel like someone has explained that to me, and I still don't know what that is. Anyway, this is going to be a barn burner. These ladies are both finishers who have never been finished, and they are nasty, gritty. This is going to be bone on bone, bone on bone. I don't think anyone is going to get finished. I think this is going to be, their first, both of their first ventures outside of that, because I just think they're tough. Okay, I think these ladies are very, very tough. Great opening fight. Then we have a middleweight bout between Bruno Ferrer and Jackson McVey. Bruno is a really, really big favorite, and I think it's because he has some very, very heavy hands and a lot more UFC experience at this point. He's existed pretty much entirely in round one. Actually, not all. Well, yeah, almost. 11 out of 14, okay, of his fights. So this is, and only one of those is a loss. So mainly he's living in the wins in round one, but it's just been round one, basically. But he is coming off of a round two sub win over Armen Petrosyan, and unfortunately Armen Petrosyan is no longer in the UFC after that loss. It was a roughy toughie. Maybe he'll make his way back, but, that's the thing about Bruno. Still, none of his wins have been outside of, have been in round three or have gone to decision. That's some scary stuff, some pretty scary stuff on paper. He swings very, very big, though, and those hands can drop all the way down to the waist. So we get chaos, okay? We get a lot of chaos when we get Bruno. And he's going against Jackson McVey. Jackson, I think, was supposed to fight last week and it got scrapple-dooed, but the Moose is going to be making his UFC appearance, so his debut. And yes, I think that is a big reason why Bruno is a favorite, because he's a pretty, like, chunky, he's a pretty fatty favorite, and so maybe a little bit skewed in that sense, because we just don't have a lot of data about Jackson, but really glad that we rebooked him. I have the Moose written twice. This PowerPoint is an error. But one thing to know about Jackson is he rode into his pro career already riding a really big win streak. So he's on an 11-fight win streak right now. Never been finished, never been to the land of decision. So that's something that him and Bruno have in common. All right, we got some big finisher moments. But 50-50 split for him between knockout and submission. So he's got a little diversity in his arsenal for sure. Hey, and don't sleep on Bruno because he's got that BJJ black belt as well, even though he is more of a knockout guy. And like his opponent, every single one of his wins have been in round 1. So Bruno's basically the same, with just a little bit more experience. But Jackson is very choky, and all of his submissions are like some kind of choke. So he'll mix it up in the way that he wants to choky, but he's definitely looking for that. He's a Midwestern boy. Another really exciting fight that on paper should end in a finish, okay, since none of them have really been out. Outside of that, so we got 2 fights in a row that feel very finishy, okay, but they might just be all blood and war. I do think that it's going to be a finish. I'm just mostly excited to see from Jackson. I'm always excited about people's UFC debut. What a new leaf, right? And then we have the Superman Ryan Spann is going against Lucas Presky at heavyweight. Our Superman Spann is still finding his way at heavyweight. It's been a bit of a, kind of an up and down, a bit of a here and a there. Had most of his career in UFC and in general professionally been at light heavyweight, but he's a very big man. Very big man at 6'5", so maybe heavyweight is a good idea. Maybe, he is coming off of a knockout loss to Waldo Cortez Costa back in March, so that's, but hey, we got another round of heavyweight, we got another chance to see the Spann the man. Okay, he's trying to find his way after weighing in a bit heavy in light heavyweight, and yeah, he's huge. He really should be a heavyweight, for sure. And Ryan Spann has not had it easy. So, he was one of the early Dana White's Contender Series guys, and he's fought a lot of greats in the division. He really has. He's not had easy matchups. That's why I feel like a lot of people know who Ryan Spann is, because definitely performs really well, but many people do who aren't known, and it's because his opposition has also been very good as well, and he's a subber. A lot of times, though, when he is getting the submission wins, it's after putting a really lengthy beating on his opponent. So definitely look out for him to be, tenderizing the meat beforehand. And he puts on a really great show, Performance of the Night awards all over the place, so you can count on Ryan Spann. And he's going against Lucas Presky, the Bull. Okay, it's Superman versus the Bull, also coming off of a loss to I think Kennedy Nezucheku actually works with Ryan Spann, so that's interesting. He is not submissive, okay, never been subbed, so it's just not really happening either way, but he's not letting it happen, okay? And getting knocked out and knocking out are kind of like the 2 realms that he seems to be existing in, okay? 56% of his wins, 67% of his loss-outs in terms of knockout. So it's been, it's been a little up-down here and there. He got to the UFC in 2022, and it's not been looking super hot. It's been 1-5, but it's not too late. It's never too late. So this is going to be curious. Then we have a guaranteed cuckoo crazy matchup between Jimmy Crute and Marcin Preachinho. That is a light heavyweight scrapadoo. Jimmy's going to be hungry. All right, Jimmy is going to be hungry in there because he's coming off of a draw. Okay, it was a war, and that's actually the second draw of his career. So I don't think this man has won since like 2022. Okay, maybe even 2020. He is hungry, and he was hungry that time too. I'm expecting that as well. Jimmy is a brawler. Okay, he's a brawler. He's on that draw 3-fight losing streak, so it's really time for a win. He had a pretty long layoff because of injury. And Jimmy has gone against a lot of really great opposition as well, and he has conquered. He's done very well. He really stands on business, okay? He's got that BJJ black belt, but he is ready to just keep that in his back pocket and trade. He really is the brute. It's a very accurate name for Jimmy. He's going to put himself on the line. And Marcin, Marcin's very interesting. Happy birthday to him, okay? 37. just turned 37 all but 2 days ago. Birthday week. This is quite the birthday week. This poor man, he can't even have any cake, okay? He's a karate foundation, and he's very, and that being so, he's Kicky McKickster. He is Kickus McKicker, and he's got a very, very wide stance. He gets very, very crouchy with it. It's really weird, really awkward stuff. Had a great run over in one championship. Joined the UFC, and it's been a little up, down here and there. Coming off of a sub loss to Modestas Bukauskas, okay? And that was actually his first win of that kind, so we hate to see it. But he's got 10 round 1 knockouts. Definitely from that crazy karate stuff. He's very, very muscular, very, very athletic build. But yeah, we're coming off of a sub loss. We've been going 1-1 since 2021. So superstitiously, does that mean that he's going to get a win since he's been going win-loss? All I'm expecting is a hungry Jimmy. I'm expecting a very, very hungry Jimmy in there. And that should make for a great fight. Then we have Adam Flying Fugate versus Islam Dulatov at welterweight. His nickname is not Flying Fugate, but it should be because those kicks, they be flying. So Adam, if you want to be the Flying Fugate, he's been all over, okay? Midtown Throwdown champ, X1 champ, LFA, and in his UFC journey, he has gone 2-2, but always putting up a very, very exciting fight, coming off of a split win over a year ago. So a pretty big gap. Wonder what's been going on there. Hope everything's all good. Adam is super, super well-rounded, and while he has a wrestling base, I think a lot of his fights have stayed on the feet. I mean, he's wild as heck. Those kicks, it's kickus and it's range. So Adam is definitely a rangy guy for his division, and he keeps that. Kicky though. That's what you got to watch out for Adam, is he'll be throwing kicks. Yeah. Up, a lot of, not necessarily ones that are spinning, a lot of up the front, a lot of teep, okay? Yeah, not a lot of flashy karate, just brutal breakdowns with kicks, going for your head, going for your legs, diversifying all of those targets. And Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of his favorite shows. Same. I have the DVD box set, so, he's cool with me. And he's also cool with me because he loves Mexico. Those two facts, I gotta tell you, that's green flag number 1, and that's green flag number 2. So, shout out to Adam Fugate, who will be going against Islam Dulatov, who I think they're kind of trying to. He's a hot young prospect. So I don't think that Adam was that this matchup was made for him to win. Although he's got what it takes. Okay, so Islam is a bit younger. He is he's a model as well. You can see a lot of pictures in front of him in some sports cars, and this is his UFC debut. So really, we will be gathering a lot of data. That's definitely my goal with this fight. Gather some data. So he lost his pro debut and has just been on an absolute tear since. So, hence very hot prospect as a result. And he's a very, very choky guy. Adam should have no problem with that. He's got the wrestling background. This is really interesting for a lot of reasons. I think just the style matchup. Adam just, Flying Fugate, he knows how to put on a show, first of all. So that's just great. And then hot young prospect. Okay, got a lot of confidence running into that. We haven't seen Adam for a year, so that's a little wah-wah, but I hope it's all good. But that's the curious element on Adam's part, what's been going on. And then we don't even know how Islam is on the UFC level. This is his debut, so just a real test. Real test. We're going to see some Flying Fugates, though. Then we have Ateba Gutierrez versus Robert Valentin. This middleweight matchup, I am a big fan of this. Ateba Gutierrez, he has this confidence about him, this radiance that it just could only exist in a 22-year-old. And I mean that with peace and love. Like, he has a very bright, confident aura, but he's very, very chill. Like, you could see in his mind, he's got a lot of big dreams. And I wish him great success. And it's been going very well. He is coming off of his first UFC appearance. It was a very nasty knockout versus Jose Medina. That was a nasty one. Okay, yikes. And he is very physical, very strong, 6 knockouts. He's very used to the finish, right? He's got 7 wins, 6 of them are knockouts. That only loss is from decision, so he's definitely shown some durability. And yeah, he's young in life, he's young in the game. There's just such a bright future for this young man at only the age of 22. Because he's so, okay, here's what I mean by that youthful craziness is he says he wants to fight 5 times a year. Nobody should be fighting 5 times a year unless it's absolutely necessary for them to feed their family. I would not recommend. He has a very diverse leg game, so watch out for the weird stuff. Watch out for kicks on all targets, and he's definitely pushing the pace. He's the one marching forward. You won't really see him doing a lot of walking backwards, trying to trick you, anything like that. And what I love about him is he likes uppercuts. I really love to see that. I love a boxing foundation, and I love when he's using that uppercut. That is some sneaky business, and he's really making his way. Very, very exciting. He's going against Robert Valentin, who is the underdog, probably just because Ateba, he's got like so much physicality in his wins and his riding the streak. Rob Zilla is such an interesting person. What is going on with this guy? Okay, so this is his third UFC appearance after being on Tough, and pretty much everyone on Tough has some kind of crazy personality, right? Of course they do. He also is a finisher. 7 first-round finishes. A lot of those via submission as opposed to knockouts. We got a fun style matchup here. Thing about Robert is he's got to take a lot of damage to give damage. That is one of his defining characteristics, in addition to loving to dance. And this one crazy moment where, someone hands him a blunt during the walkout and he just gives it a smoky. He just gives it a smoky as he's walking out about to fight. That is some chaotic behavior if I've ever seen it, and I'm here for it. He's a carpenter, he can build you a house. And you're gonna be seeing him eating a lot of food after this, if you see him, okay? Eating is his hobby in general, which that must be pretty tough during fight week, right? If your eating is how you get joy. This is going to be great, not just because it's 2 finishers who finish, but because it's that quirky differences in style matchup, a submission artist versus a very boxing heavy knockout artist. But the thing is that Robert is willing to put himself in harm's way, and I think that's why we gotta love him. And I think it should be very exciting for that reason as well. These are guys who have that never back down attitude, and I know they're going to show it, and I think it's going to be quirky. It's going to be a really quirky matchup. Makes sense that it's the first fight on the prelims. A little special there. Should be a good one. Then we have Francisco Prado versus Nicole Verrettov, welterweights. Congrats to Francisco Prado and his beautiful wife. They are pregnant, recently so. That is very, very cool. Big congrats. Amazing life accomplishment. Francisco, he's an up-and-comer. He's a young man. He's got a Taekwondo black belt. Those are rare. We love those. We love a Taekwondo guy. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, but both of them from decision, and most recently to Jake Matthews, who, right, we got to give a shout-out for his insane finish of cheating Nijukhani. Jake Matthews is a baddie, and Jake Matthews is definitely a baddie in decision. So while that fight ended very early, Jake Matthews is definitely a guy who can push it until the end. So you know what? We got to give it to Francisco. That's all good. He's still making his way. He is a finisher himself. He is 1 for 1, though, between his knockouts and his decision wins, so he doesn't rely on that. He can make it work. He's got a Von Flue choke. That's fun. And he's just a young man on his way. American top team. He's working with the right people. Nicole, he was dominating all over the place before he made his way to the UFC. He had to succumb a bit of a Dana White's Contender Series loss, go back and fight some more and make his way back, but now he's 0-2, so it's been, he really needs this. This is going to be his first UFC win. Both of these guys, though, are fighting to break a 2-fight losing streak. So that's rough. He's coming off of his knockout loss to Austin Vanderford, who was making his UFC debut. Yeah, Nicole is a finisher. Not a lot happening in Subland. I think maybe like 1 loss, 1 win. He's definitely relying on that finish to get the wins, but there's just a lot of stakes in this one. This one is complicated simply because both of these guys really need to break that streak, and there's a lot on the line. I think there's a little bit more on the line for Nicole because I think he's faced less notable competition, could be argued. Francisco Prado, I think that the competition he's faced has been just slightly in the UFC at least. But both these guys, 2-fight losing streak. We got to get it done. Someone's got to get it done. I just am always excited to see any Taekwondo black belt, though, because they're crazy. Then, speaking of crazy, we have Marvin Vtori versus Brendan Allen in a middleweight matchup. Silly Vtori holding on to that number 10 spot, the Italian dream. Okay, we know him, we love him. This guy is a machine. He really is. He's got so much energy that he expends a lot. He's walking you down the whole way. Marvin has a lot of 5-round experience. 5. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And he's taken it like all the way to the decision many, many times. He's such a wild boxer, never been finished, mixes in the kicks, but he is a little chaotic, okay? But he learns. He learns. That's what we like about Marvin. You can see that he learns. I remember very distinctly after the Bobby Knuckles fight, because Bobby is kicky, okay? If there's a middleweight that is kicky, it's definitely Bobby Knuckles. And Marvin learned from that. He learned after being hurt and controlled with those kicks that he's got to be kicky. And then he came back like with that adjustment, and that was really cool to see. So he may be a little bit of a silly weirdo, but he definitely makes adjustments. Yeah, he's coming off of his decision loss to Robin Delice, who is doing very well. That was a good fight. He's very game, okay? He'll never say no. Remember Fatty Costa, also on the card. When Costa was like, he's like literally 20 pounds overweight. Like it was a mess. And Marvin, he had all the right to be like, I'm not fighting you, you unprofessional weirdo. But he said yes anyway. And that's what we love about Marvin. He definitely is a gamer. He 100% is a gamer. He's not somebody who's not going to take a fight. He's going to bite down on that mouthpiece. So unfortunately, he went dark for 2024, but he's back, okay? He is back again, and he has got a fun matchup ahead of him. So striky, boxy Marvin is going against Subalicious All-In Allen, okay? He had a great submission win in his Dana White's Contender Series fight, and then he made his debut with another submission against Kevin Holland, and that's on a short notice, Kevin Holland, but Kevin Holland, he lives short notice. That's just who he is. And Brendan is just so submitty. 14 submissions is actually crazy. That is so many. So he's really, I feel like, really going to be looking to take Marvin down. Marvin is so durable. That's not the guy you're going to knock out, and he's so much forward pressure. That's not the guy you're going to want to try and outstrike. Let's get him to the ground, okay? Let's get him to the ground. Let's break this 2-fight losing streak. That's what's on Brendan's mind right now. And most recently, he lost to Fluffy Hernandez, who, just got booked for a main event. So it's not, Brandon Allen is at the top of his game, absolutely. Before that, okay, before his 2-fight losing streak, he was on a 7-fight win streak. So, yeah. And, hey, he's a Southern Belle. We got to give him a diamond. He's from Louisiana. Okay? Little diamond boy. 3 performances of the night, wins, Fight Club. He's in the right places, training with the right people. And he is at the top of his game. This one is going to be interesting. I'm very, very curious to see what happens, though I do suspect that Brandon Allen is going to just try to do everything he can to get Marvin down, which can be challenging. It can be challenging these days, especially to get that sucker to the ground. He might just pop right back up. I do think that Marvin has a good chance if he can just, keep up the volume, keep up that pace, keep up the suffocation, but don't get too close, because then Brandon might grab you. I think this will be really great. Then we have a bantamweight scrap with Kyler Phillips versus Venicious Olivivera. We have not seen Kyler in a year. The Matrix is back. He is been in the UFC since 2020 and has a 6-2 record. Been very good. He managed to make his way to number 12 after getting some wins over some pretty dominant people like Pedro Munoz at the time. That was a pretty significant. But he's coming off of a decision loss to Rob Font, who we know can get real nasty in there. And that was back in October. So had a bit of a time since then, almost a year. He really has fun in there. That's what we love about Kyler. But he has the cancel bout curse. Okay, so I don't know what's been happening with that. But if you look at his, Tapology or whatever, just so many canceled fights. We hate to see that. But Kyler is very exciting. Kyler has made his way to number 12 because he really puts it all out there. And what you got to watch for is those spinning kicks. If you don't know already, that is one of Kyler's signature moves. Is he is spinny, kicky McKickens. He's going against Lock Dog Venicious Olivivera, who has been killing it, okay, since entering the UFC in 2024. Now he's undefeated in the UFC. He was a UAE Warriors champ 2 times and purple belt BJJ, 5-fight win streak overall. Coming off of a fight of the night win over Said Nurmagomedov, who is a nasty kickboxer. Like that guy, talk about kicky. Okay, so he's dealt with kicks before. He's his own hero. He's definitely really quirky, fun guy with 14 round one finishes. So definitely very, very powerful for the division. Very powerful. And his takedown accuracy is super high. So is his defense. So he's really, really got it all. He controls very, very well in there. I'm loving it. For every 2 strikes that he lands, he usually only takes about 1. So he's very, very efficient. He's not putting himself just completely in the line of fire. Smart young man. Leg kicks, and he goes for the legs when he's grappling too. I think this fight is going to be very violent, very exciting. Another bone-on-bone contact. There's going to be a lot of legs. I suspect that this one is going to be very leggy. Legs on both sides. Legs spinning, legs teeping, flying, who knows? But what we do know is legs. Then we have Michael Johnson against Daniel Zellhuber in a lightweight fight to open up the main card. Michael Johnson is powerful, right? That's why he is the menace. He is a UFC veteran. It's been up, it's been down, it's been all around 15-15, but he puts on a show. He's on the main card, Michael Johnson, because he's willing to take that risk and he's got the power. He's an absolute legend for what he's done. Coming off of a knockout win currently, okay, but it's been a little while. It's that right hook you got to watch out for with Michael. Got him that performance of the night. He's a little submission loss susceptible, 50% of his losses, because he's more of a stand-up kind of guy. He is more of a stand-up kind of guy. He wants to stand, bang it out. Really, really powerful guy. Very, very boxing heavy, so submission susceptible. But hey, you know what? Let's never forget. He actually beat Dustin Poirier. He knocked him out. That's crazy. So, yeah, Michael Johnson, boxing baddie. And he's going against very violent, young, golden boy Daniel Zellhuber. I think this is a match that is set up for Daniel in a way where, you know, if he can get this win, it will propel him a lot further. And I think Michael Johnson, he's holding the line in this sense, whereas this will be a big step for Daniel forward. Daniel is doing pretty good. All right, he's 3-2 since joining the UFC. Coming off of a split loss, though, so within those losses, you know, let's dig into the story about it. Esteban Ribovic, that fight was war. That fight was war. Never forget it. That was one of the most banger fights ever. You gotta watch that one, okay? Ribovic versus Zellhuber, incoming classic. It was crazy, okay? He's got that Mexican fighting spirit. He's wearing it proud. It really shows in his fights. He just doesn't back down. Like, he has that hunger in his eyes and he's gonna walk forward with it. Like, right now he's on a streak of fight of the night and then performance of the night previously. So, like, whatever happens, he's gonna put on a brilliant, violent, beautiful performance. He's got a very spunky fighting style, real long, lanky guy. He's crazy. He's gonna go for the calf slicer. He's gonna get you a TKO with his knees. You know, he's gonna do whatever it takes. But he's never been finished. That's that Mexican fighting spirit, okay? He really wants to walk you down. That's what I love about Daniel, is that he's not tentative. He's not tentative. He's ready. He's go for broke. He is absolute war. I'm a really big fan of Daniel Zellhuber. I think this is just the start. I really think this is just the start for a very illustrious career for the Golden Boy. He's got a really great head on his shoulders. This is going to be really awesome. I suspect that this one will be all standing, not a lot of, like, taking down. I think maybe Daniel will throw in a couple takedowns here and there, but I think all in all, these guys are going to provoke each other into some of those moments. You know, let's stand, let's trade. I really think that, and I think it's a guaranteed war. I think Daniel he got the youth on his side, but this one's going to be fab. And then we get more fabulous energy with Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull at featherweight. This is a good one. These guys look like they could be cousins. They almost look like the same guy. Dan, 50K, Ige, let's go, right? Dana White's Contender Series, it's crazy to think that, like, it's back in 2017, because I don't know, so long ago. But yeah, Dana White's Contender Series has been around that long. I remember when it first debuted. Yeah. So Dan Ige has been very active since joining the UFC. He's 11-8. He's become a veteran in that short time. It's crazy. Just since 2017, which, I mean, is 8 years, but Yeah, that's it. 29th. This is 29th pro fight. Okay. He's coming in with a BJJ black belt, but we know Dan. Okay. He's boxing Dan. Coming off of speaking of boxing Dan, right? Coming off of a round 3 knockout over Sean Woodson. That was bad. Like, that was some bad. Like, Dan Ige, he's a bad man. He really is. Yes. And if you didn't know, you don't want more evidence for what makes him a bad man, is he once fought on 4 hours notice. So he set the record. Dan Ige, I believe, holds the record in the UFC for like the shortest notice of taking a fight. He does not give a rat's tooth, okay? And he's never been finished. Dog. Okay, he's dog energy. I am such a Dan Ige fan. It's completely unreal. Like, I have so much respect and admiration for him. I have so much respect and admiration for the relationship that he has with his wife. It is so beautiful. He's just such a family man. You can tell his wife is his best friend, and that is like, the energy is just right with this man. The energy is right, okay? It is. And he's just going to stand on business. Okay? He's going to close the distance. He's going to sit into that right. He's going to stand on business. We love Dan Ige, okay? And he's going against Patricio Pitbull, who is a absolute legend. And he, Bellator legend, still making his way in the UFC though, okay? 2-division champ over there. He's already established himself as a veteran, 37 years old. So, I'm not completely sure as like what his goals are here in the UFC. But he was probably the biggest star that was most recently added to the roster. But he looked, really gun-shy in his fight against Yair Rodriguez. But we got to give Yair Rodriguez his credit. He is top of the division. Okay? Plain and simple. Yair is one of the trickiest, craftiest, and he's long. I mean, Patricio was definitely used to being the shorter fighter, but yeah, he just looked gun-shy. He looked gun-shy in there, and he was outclassed by Yair for sure. But we got to remember, Pitbull is a stocky, strong guy who is an absolute everyman. All of his wins perfectly split, 12-12 to 12. Gonna have to mess up that perfection perhaps, with a BJJ black belt who is a menace. This is gonna be awesome. These are two people who are veteran baddies. Okay, I mean, Dan Ige coming in with a little bit more youth, but they're both veterans in their fight experience, and these are just some tough people. I'm really hoping that Patricio comes out putting on the gas, because that was, I guess, the big disappointment from seeing his last performance against Yair, is I just didn't get that, where's that energy at? So hopefully Dan Ige and his stand-on business mentality will provoke that out of him. But this should be a good one. And then we get a fight that we never thought would happen. It was supposed to happen. It fell out. It's here. Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. This is a welterweight firework. Okay, we got another barn burner. We got too many barn burners to keep track of. Big Kevin Holland fan in the house. Okay, we ride or die with Kevin Holland. I've been saying that since the beginning. We are riding and dying to Kevin Holland, the trailblazer. Kevin, he's all about activity. This is his 22nd fight since 2020. Is that actually real? He's had 42 fights in the last 10 years. I don't know how that's even possible. And the reason is because he's living in the now. So Kevin Holland has, I feel, a very healthy but very unique psychology around fighting. He's very aware that he's not going to be able to do this forever. He's basically trying to find, I feel like, that beautiful combo of riding till the wheels fall off, right? Just taking every opportunity that presents itself, but approaching it in a very meaningful way. Like, Kevin Holland's serious. He's serious about it. He's not just taking fights here and there because it's just whatever to him. It's serious business, despite being a very fun, silly guy. And you got to know, he stopped criminal activity. He stopped an active shooter. He stopped I think, somebody was getting their car jacked. Kevin Holland is the type of person who it translates into real life, right? It just translates. He's so creative in there. He's not afraid to ask for advice. He's one of the most, everybody I think who fights at that level is lucid while they're in the cage. Of course the adrenaline gets to you, but you've done it enough times to where you're aware of your surroundings. And I feel like nobody embodies that more than Kevin Holland. He's talking to his opponents. It's insanity, right? Never forget the Souza win where he's underneath him and he says, "I had a dream about this once." Bang! And he knocks him out from it. it's like storybook with Kevin Holland every time. Coming off of a decision win against Vicente Luque, that's some bad business just last month. But you know Kevin Holland, he's right back. He's going against Daniel D. Rod Rodriguez, who we also saw very recently, who I got to see in real life at my first ever in-person UFC event at UFC Iowa, and that was awesome. He knocked out Ponzinibbio, and you could see the power differential was real that entire fight. Like, Ponzinibbio managed to survive a couple of really heavy bombs from D-Rod, but eventually he succumbed. Yes. Daniel is very, very powerful. He's got a big back. You can see he's got that big back status and like wide. He's a wide man. Yeah, hate it or love it. That's his motto. Boxing Foundation. And D-Rod, he didn't actually even make his way into MMA until his mid-20s. So, you know, making it happen whenever. Works in the kicks a little bit. Very, very striky. Love that. He's always throwing in a couple of calf kicks, trying to beat you down, trying to make sure that you aren't putting on the forward pressure. Watch the left hand, though. Yikes, that's some scary stuff. And he's definitely gaining some momentum after being on a 3-fight skid. We're happy to see this. We're happy to see our LA man make it back into the win column and be coming in here with the win. So this fight was supposed to happen, you know, many years ago, and here it is now, which is really great. Both guys coming in, riding a win streak. I think this one is going to be absolute crazy. This one's going to be insanity. Like, you're going to see D-Rod being very, very strong, very stable with his boxing and, you know, throwing in the leg kicks, and we'll see Kevin Holland do the Kevin Holland, okay? Whatever that may be. I think that this one it's going to be fun no matter where it goes. And that means we made it to our co-main event. I'm not sure that I would have made Paulo Costa versus Roman Copilov the co-main event. No shade. But I might have switched it. That's okay. This is our co-main event. Paulo Costa, you know him. He's a weirdo. He is a weirdo, the eraser, coming off of a loss to Sean Strickland a year ago, so we haven't seen him. You know, where has he been? Where has he been? He is a chaotic finisher, so we'll be welcoming that back, and it's really, like, it's hard to get this guy down. It's hard to pin this guy down. He's never been subbed. He is very, very athletic. That's probably one of his defining qualities, is that build that he's got going on. But he had a weird moment with a very, very massive weight miss. Again, shout out to Marvin Vtori for taking the fight. And remember when he was like, I was drunk. Like, I drank too much last night. That's why I lost. Like, we get weird energy from this man, always. Always, always, always. Canceled bouts. This fight got canceled 3 times. This fight was supposed to be on UFC 319, and then they stole it, and they brought it over here. Yeah, you know Paulo, though. Chaotic finisher, right? If you had to describe Paulo Costa, it's chaotic finisher. Yeah, it's been weird. And he hasn't won since Luke Rockhold. Oh my God. That's nuts. Why does that feel like it was 10 years ago? He's going against Roman Copilov, who is definitely making his way. This Sambo finisher. He is a nasty finisher on a 2-fight win streak, coming off of a head kick knockout over Chris Curtis, which some say maybe was, with 1 second to go, maybe it was an early stoppage. But, either way, very, very dominant, very heavy hands. There's like lead in this guy's hands. Yeah, he is definitely a finisher, and you see throughout that how much he stuns his opponents when he does connect. And what's really interesting about Roman Copilov, what we can really appreciate about his style, is that while he is a finisher, it can happen in any round. And I love to see that. I actually really love when you can see somebody carry that power, and it can happen anywhere in the fight. I feel like it's a real demonstration of his athleticism, that he doesn't, rely on blitzing and getting it done really quick, get in, get out, just being like powerful. He has a lot of athleticism, and I think it really speaks to his fight IQ that he's able to get these finishes throughout, most commonly in round 2, but there's a lot of finishes that he's got in round 3 as well. So after having had to take damage himself, I think that's pretty impressive, and I think that makes a lot of sense why Roman has been able to climb the ladder, his effective style, his effective skill set. Yeah, lead in his hands. And head kicks. What a great combo. You got lead in your hands, you got head kicks. Yeah, and he be kicking. Okay, he's going to be kicking. The issue, though, is the hands are dropping. So far, it's been okay. but the hands are dropping. What makes this fight exciting is actually, I guess, similar to our big, dazzling main event fight, is you have two guys who are definitely going to be working on the forward pressure. This is going to be definitely two people walking it down. It's pretty guaranteed, I feel like, to be exciting in that sense, because no one is going to, I don't expect there to be a lot of hand tagging. I expect it to be very, let's just get in there and perhaps clash heads. That leads us to the big moment. The BMF championship fight. Although we all know that it's so much more than that. It's a lot different, I guess, the story, than just that whole whatever that is. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier for the third time at lightweight. Max blessed Holloway. This man was born to scrap, okay? We know it. It all started in Hawaii, and he's been in the UFC since 2012. Him and Dustin actually have a nearly identical UFC record. So Max Holloway is 22-8. Dustin Poirier is 22-8 with 1 no contest. That is just crazy stuff, because they started their journey only a couple of years, they're only 3 years of age difference, okay? And they started their journey in the UFC just a couple years apart. Max is the current BMF champ, again, whatever that means. We love him because he's literally going to switch stances mid-combination. It's all about volume with Max. He's looking to outpace you. That's what we know. We know that Max gets his wins because he just can out-cardio basically everybody, in addition to his striking being so clean and crisp. Like, he can have that amazing striking, that composed style that he has, and he can carry it for as long as need be. Until death, really. So, marching forward with that durability as a combo. Again, his lone loss being to Ilia Topuria, who we know is... who is Ilia Topuria. That's what we know. And Max Holloway is, he's an essential member of his community. Got that beautiful picture of him and his wife. She's also a professional athlete. She's a professional surfer. So they definitely can bond on, I guess, really actually understanding like the highest levels of competition. But again, more importantly, they're best friends. You can tell that they're best friends. It's so beautiful. What a beautiful relationship. That's one of two really important things that these men have in common. They are pillars of their communities, and they have beautiful relationships with their wives, with their families. Woo! Last time we're gonna do this. That is crazy. I could cry right now, okay? The Diamond, the last Southern belle of the night, the last Louisiana born, just like Max, he was born to fight. I guess that's the biggest thing they have in common, right? There's 3 things, but he just wants to fight, all right? It all started in Louisiana, getting into fights as a kid, not because he didn't like people, because he just wanted to fight. Like, that's the truth. And then it transitioned to wrestling, being kind of the first sport that, like combat sport, okay, that you could try, and then boxing, and made his way to MMA, and he was pro by 19. I strongly recommend that you watch the movie Fightville. It's an incredible documentary that explores Dustin and another fighter named Albert Steinbach while they are in Gladiator Academy, which is where it all started for Dustin Poirier with Tim Crute. That was his original coach. It wasn't until the Korean zombie fight that he made the switch to American Top Team. I know that's how we know him now, but this is all about roots. And that's why we're going back to where it started to have this last dance. Please watch that movie, Fightville. You're going to have to rent it. It's a couple of bucks. Check out my video breaking it down if you're lazy, but do both, okay? Watch the movie, check out my video, whatever. He's been in the UFC since 2011, so just a year longer than Max Holloway, and we love Dustin because he's never lost 2 in a row. That, I feel like, is the story of Dustin. Never lost 2 in a row, always going to learn from the adversity, always going to come back with something bigger, something brighter. He is the brightest diamond, okay? He's the brightest star. Just like Max, he's an essential member of his community, which is a lot of why it's time. Okay, you don't have to beat your body up forever. You don't, just because Dustin has probably several bangers left in him, right? Several beautiful fights that he could put on, does that mean that he has to? No, maybe it's time to give back to the community. I mean, he already does. Let's be. That is really his full-time job outside of fighting, is being a community member. But maybe it's time to be with the family a little bit more, right? He wants to have another kid. Just really focus on being a dad. And we got to commend him for that, okay? We got to commend him for that. We love him because he's never going to give up on himself. That is, I think, one of the most beautiful lessons of Fightville and of Dustin's career journey is that he's never going to be the person to beat himself, right? So that's how it works in fighting. That's something that Tim Crater expresses in Fightville in the documentary, but that I'm sure he's expressed many times. You know, fighting is a microcosm for life. And oftentimes, if anything, we are our own worst enemy. And, you know, it's really us giving up on ourselves that becomes our ultimate downfall. It's either that or somebody beats us. And what we know about Dustin is it's only going to be one outcome. He has to be beaten. He's never going to give up on himself. That is one bad man. All right? As his beautiful, incredible wife, Jo, says, that is one bad man. He really is. He's really like, and you know, that's the plan. The plan is to be a bad man and to get in there and to be a finisher and to march forward. The last dance on his terms. Ooh, this is going to be tough. So Dustin got the better of Max both times. First time was a pretty early round 1 submission win, so not a lot to look into there. They were also literally 19. But the second fight, UFC 236, that's worth studying. And I think the main takeaway looking at that fight when trying to think about what's going to happen in this one is that Dustin's powerful. We know this as a finisher. Max is all about volume. The way that he wins his fights is by outpacing, outperforming, outdoing, okay? And in the first fight, it didn't work. He wasn't able to get his game plan going. Dustin was able to shake it up. He was able to make Max get stunned, actually. So, you know, Max is so durable. He takes a lot of people's power just clean flush. But Dustin, he's got the big back. But that first time, or that second time that they met, the first time that they carried it out all the way to decision, is one of the most incredible fights, really, that I've ever seen. So it makes a lot of sense that to cap it all off, for the last dance, we're going to run back that banger. And run it back we shall. So, of course, I got to be voting for Dustin Poirier. But the truth is that no matter what happens, he's done it all. That's what makes this so bittersweet. What we really should be doing is just retrospecting about all of the amazing times that Dustin has showed his heart. He is just a once-in-a-lifetime athlete, once-in-a-lifetime human, and we are all very privileged to witness that. The reason why it's so easy to get emotional, I feel, is because he is such a role model. This is somebody who started fighting because it's who he is. And it was never about being the best. It was never about being world champion. It's about becoming a better man. And that's what he's done time and time again. And I hope that even though this is the last time, this is our last dance, that we can always and forever reflect and look to his career and look to his accomplishments, look to who he has been as a person, and be inspired. I know that I will be inspired by Dustin Poirier for the rest of my life. I wish for you to find that same inspiration. It's not hard. It's not hard. Listen to this man talk. Watch this man fight. And we are so blessed to have Max Holloway to help put on this dance with us. What a bittersweet week. So please do everything and all things to celebrate. This is really important. You know, Lil Wayne is going to be watching. And because of that, that's going to be our song of the week, okay? Louisiana man himself. He's a big UFC fan. I know that he is going to be cheering on the Southern Bells fighting that night. Let's go, Carly. Let's go, Brendan. Let's go, Diamond, Dustin Poirier. One last time. But we know that it's going to be bright things ahead. You know, he'll be in his community. He'll be doing beautiful things for the rest of his life. I'm really happy for him. I'm happy for him to get so much more time with his amazing family. To get so much more time to fulfill all of the dreams that he has. He's our man. Yep. That's all I got. So, you know, let me know anything. Let me know how many times you've cried about it. Let me know the other fights you're looking forward to, what you suspect is going to happen here, anything. Let me know if you've tried the hot sauce. Let me know if you've seen Fightville. All the things. And thanks for hanging out. As always, and until next week. Peace out.